and welcome back to Living Creative with Pixie Princess. Are you new to loom knitting? So you want a first project to get a project done? This hat is just a basic loom knitted beanie. It's very simple, it's very easy, it can be worked up very quickly. And if you want to learn how to make your first hat, this is what most loomers made their first time. This is what I made my first time. I made my husband one and he's still wearing it. So if you want to learn how to make a hat like this on the loom, stay tuned. Okay, to make this simple beanie, and it really is a great first project if you're learning to loom knit. I think pretty much everybody makes this hat when they're first learning. And the tools you will need for this is, I'm using a smaller gauge loom. I think it's 36. This will fit an average size woman's head or a teenager. But if you have a man you're making this for, you might want to go up a size. I think this is 41 pegs. This is the size that I use if I'm making my husband one. Or if you're making it for a lady that has a lot of hair, very thick hair, she might want the larger size. But today, we're going to use the smaller one, which I believe is 36. You will need your yarn. And if you are a beginner, I recommend using a bulky weight to begin with. I'm using a bulky weight 5. You can use a 5 or a 6. You can, if you have a worsted weight yarn, which is like a 4 or 3. You can use 2 strands as one. That can get confusing if you're not used to doing this. So I would recommend starting off with a bulky weight. Once you learn how to do this, then that'll become easier. But I'm starting off with a 5. And of course you will need your tool to knit with. So you'll need your pick. A lot of the looms come with a pick. I bought this one at Joann's. It's easier on the hands. You will need your scissors and a darning needle. Some optional things which will come in handy if you have a row counter. This will come in handy. I really recommend a measuring tape, because you might want to go by measurement. Pom-pom is optional. If you do want to use a pom-pom, I recommend making it before you make your hat, so when you're ready to cinch your hat up, it's easier to attach it. That's just my opinion, and I like doing it, having it ready when to go. And I will have a video. I've already posted a video. I'll post the link on how to make a pom-pom using a pom-pom maker. This is not the name brand one that's commonly used that you can buy in the big box stores. I had a set of these that came with my first set of loom nets that I ordered on Amazon. I love them. They make great. This is the larger size, and that's what I used to make this one. This is what I used for the video. Excuse my voice. I have a little bit of a cold going on here. So let's get started. So this is the anchor peg. So you want just a little bit of tail because you want to be able to weave it in when you're through with your hat. To make a slip knot, I just kind of wrap my yarn around. I cross it in the back. I grab it with my 2 fingers and I pull. And then you're going to attach it to your loom. It doesn't matter which direction you go. I am left-handed, so I like to go left to right. You can go right to left. It doesn't matter. So I'm left-handed, so just bear that in mind while you're watching. I do loom knit left-handed. So to begin, you're just going to wrap every peg. The anchor peg's here, and I'm counting this as my last peg. So this is going to be my first peg. And the anchor peg kind of marks the beginning. So when you've come to it, you know you've gone full circle. So we're going to do E-stitches here. And so you're just wrapping it, and it's called the E-stitch because it looks like a little cursive E. And you're just going to wrap every peg around the loom. So I'm going to speed this up. You can pause it if you're working with me. Speed this up. Okay, I'm down to my last 2 pegs. I'm going to wrap them and knit them off. And I've been pushing my stitches down as I go. It makes it easier for the next round. And so basically that's it. If you can do that process, you can make this hat. So I'm going to go around one more time and show you. Now I'm going to count that as my first row. But I want probably about a 2 to 4 inch rim. It depends on how thick you want your rim. And I'm going to double this rim. So it's going to be a very thick brim. So you're going to double what you knit around. So I'm going to go around again. So if you want to pause the video, you can. And just, knit until you have the size brim that you want. But you need to double that because we're going to fold it. So let's get around this loom one more time, and then we'll pause the video so that you can work a little bit. It's really simple. Like I said, we're just wrapping each peg and knitting it off. And you E-wrap, it looks like a little E. You're totally wrapping it, and you're taking the bottom loop and knitting it over the top one. So you take the bottom loop, you put your pick under it, lift it up, pull it over. Go under, lift it up, pull it over. It's as simple as that. It doesn't get any easier than this. And this is a lot of fun. And you can produce a hat very quickly. You do not need any knitting skills or crochet skills. I am learning to knit on needles, but I learned this way. Anything that can be made on the needles can be made on the loom. I like both processes, but I still love looming, even though I'm learning to knit with needles. It just depends on my mood and what I'm making. If you'd like to come along with my journey, and just let me know that, I will be posting some videos of me knitting with my needles. I'm not really qualified to teach that yet, but maybe in the future. But if you'd like to come along on my journey as I'm learning, I'll be happy to take you. So I'm down to my last 3 pegs here. Okay, a word of caution. That's 2 rows here. This is secure, so you want to take this slip knot off of your anchor peg because it will start to cause some trouble and weigh your hat down. So I'm just pulling it through here, and I'm going to put it back here and get it out of the way. And make sure you're only using the yarn that's attached to your ball. Okay, so just keep working in this manner, wrapping the pegs, taking your loom pick and knitting over the top peg until you've reached the length that you want. So you can pause the video, you can rewind it if you need any tips. But you can watch this whole video before you make your project and then follow along, watch it again and follow along. So if you're following along, just pause the video and I'll meet you back in a few minutes after you've knitted several rows to see where you are. Okay, I just wanted to meet you back for a minute. I've knitted 8 rows and I measured it, and it measures right at 2 inches, which is about the size I want. So I'm going to knit 8 more rows so I can fold this over and have a 2-inch brim. So, you know, every now and then just stop and measure. If you got the brim size you want to double it. So I'm going to continue doing my 8 rows. This is, you know, what the brim's going to look like when it's folded. It'll be nice and thick. It'll keep your ears warm. So I'm going to do 8 more rows of the same, which I've been, you know, wrapping with the E-wrap and knitting over. And then I will meet you back when I have my next 8 rows, which is a total of 16, which may be different for you. So just use your measuring tape and see where you are. But I'll meet you back after my next 8 rows. Okay, so I've just been knitting. I've got a total of 16 rows, and it measures 4 inches. So when I fold it, it's going to be a 2-inch brim. So let's make that brim. Okay, so push down your stitches on the loom. And this is a little bit tricky, but okay. You're going to find, and here's the tail, and we're going to tuck this in as we go, so we don't even have to weave it in. Okay, so we started here. You're just going to kind of follow up, and this is the trickiest part of this. You're going to take the loom and place it, the loop, and place it on here. So just be very careful that you're doing the right amount of here. So I'm going to place this in here, tuck that away. Okay. And if you don't want to do that, we can weave it in with your darning needle later. Okay, so you should have the same amount all the way around. If you don't, you did something not quite right. Like I said, this is the hardest part of this whole project, is getting this right here. But once you do, you're going to have a nice thick brim on your hat. And I'm not even guaranteeing that I'm doing it. I may have to go back and redo it. But I think I'm okay here. And I hope you can see what I'm doing here. If you have any questions, please, comment below and ask. It should be right on the end. See what we're making here? This is a nice thick brim. Keep your ears warm. Just keep going all the way around until you've connected. This is my working yarn. I'm getting it out of the way. I don't need it just yet. Okay, got that one done. Okay, we're almost full circle, and I hope I have enough here. Let's see. Keeping my fingers crossed. Okay, see, that's not part of it. Okay, let's see what I did here. Got that one. You want to make sure you're not having one big loop around. So do I have one more loop I can use here? I think I missed one somewhere. Okay, so now I think I did, but I'm going to hope for the best here. You'll have 2 loops all the way around. So you're going to knit. I'm going to pull that tight. I'm going to start with the first one. Knit over the top. I think this might have been where I messed up here. And this might be a little tight. Just going to knit over all the way around. If you have any questions, please feel free to ask. But like I said, this is the trickiest part of this hat. This is the simplest hat you will ever make on the loom. And I believe this is what most people start off with. This is what I started off with. I made my husband a hat, and he still wears it today. In fact, I saw him wearing it this morning. Okay, so you're going to knit all the way around, the bottom loop over the top. And this is the brim of our hat. And for me, it took me 16 rows. Okay. Okay, I'm going to tighten that up a little here. There we go. Okay, so you've got this brim here. It's folded. It's nice and thick. So now we're ready to do the body. I'm just going to push the stitches down. And you're just going to continue the process that we've been doing. We're wrapping using the E-wrap stitch. And that's pretty a basic stitch that you begin with when you first learn. There are other stitches, and maybe one video I will go over the different stitches you can do. There's a flat knit, I think that's called a true knit. There's the U-wrap, and then if you want to make some different patterns, there's the purl stitch, and I will show you that. And I've probably done that on some other videos. But I'll make a video if you're interested in just the different stitches that I use when I'm loom knitting. This is really fun. It goes by quickly. If you're new to using yarn, you're wanting to learn to crochet or learn to knit, starting off with the loom, I think is a big confidence booster. I just like working with yarn. I just think it's amazing that I can take a piece of string and make something pretty out of it. And looming is one tool, crocheting, knitting with needles, or even, one of the looming knitting machines. It's just working with yarn, and it's just a very relaxing thing for me. And then you come out with something that you made, and it builds your confidence. You say, I made that hat, or I made that scarf. So, this is great. If, you're older, you've been knitting and crocheting, and you love working with yarn, but you've developed, carpal tunnel, arthritis, and it makes it difficult. This is a little easier on your hands. Okay, so I've done another one, and I'm going to count another row. I want to knit about another 6 inches above the rim because I want the total hat to be about 8 inches. So there we go. I've knitted the next row after my brim, and I'm just going to keep doing that. So if you want to pause the video, if you're knitting along with me, you can review any steps that we've done, but just keep knitting in this fashion until you reach about 8 inches total from the brim to the top. And I'll tell you what the stitch count is for me. It may be different for you depending on your yarn, but just keep knitting until you've reached about 8 inches. If you want a slouchy hat, go a little bit further, but I'm just wanting to make a basic beanie. So pause the video, keep knitting until you've reached the length of the hat that you want, and then we will go from there. Okay, so I've just been knitting and knitting and knitting. I've done a total of 35 rows, counting the brim. If you just want to count the body, about 19 rows, and it measures from up here, stretch it out, to the bottom of the brim, about 8 inches. And you don't have to be exact on that, but just around that. You can also try it on your head if you want. But now that you've done that, so a total of 35, counting the folding brim, 19 rows in the body. You're going to take your working yarn and just wrap it around the loom about 1.5 times. You just want to make sure you have enough yarn. I'd rather have too much than not enough. And then you're going to snip that off. You're through with that ball of yarn. Okay, you have a couple of options. So let me show you option 1. You can use your loom pick, and your first peg, go in the top of your loop, scoop up the working yarn, and then you're just going to pull it all the way through. Let me show you that again. You go in the top of the loop, and then put your working yarn underneath it, pull it up, and all the way through. I'm going to show you that one more time, and then I'm going to show you option B, and you can do whatever's most comfortable for you. Okay, last time, go from at the top of the loop, go under, scoop up the yarn that you just cut off, pull it all the way through. You can remove these loops as you go. Okay, and let's do option B, which requires your darning needle. And you want a good yarn needle with a big eye, kind of a blunt tip. And you're going to thread it. And sometimes this is difficult, especially with this thick yarn. Get that fuzz off here. Okay, let's try that again. Let's kind of twist my yarn to get it as small as I can. Get it through. Oh, come on. This is why I like to use the pick most of the time. But you do have to use it to weave in ends. Got it. Okay. So just pull it through your yarn needle. Okay. Now, if you're using the needle, you're going to go underneath the loop and pull it through. Go underneath, pull it through, and you can take the loops off as you go. I like to do a couple or 3 and then pull them off. So underneath the loop with your threaded needle, pull it all the way through. And I like these little needles with the curve on it for the looms. They go through very easily. Okay, so whichever method you prefer, you can try both and see which one you like best. This is just a gathered bind off. very simple, very easy. So I'm just going to speed this process up until we get to the end. Okay, we're almost done. Got 3 more to go. Pull it through. Pull it through. The last one. Oops. And take them off of the pegs. Your hat is off of the loom now. So we don't need that anymore for this project. Okay, so just kind of tug on it. This kind of acts as a drawstring, and I think I missed one here. Let's see. I did, so I'm going to try to go back here. Just be careful. I missed one. So just be careful when you do this. I'm going to go through it. Okay, so now I'm just going to put the needle inside, and I'm going to turn my hat inside out. Okay, but before I do that, I'm going to take my pom-pom, and I'm going to put the tails on my pom-pom in the top of that hat. Okay. Now I'm going to turn it inside out. Okay, the thread that's on the needle, I'm just going to keep cinching it up until I've closed up that hole. Okay, so we've got the tails from our pom-pom right here. Here's the tail that we cinched off. So I'm going to pull it tight, but don't too tight because you don't want to break your yarn, okay? And then you're going to pull these in a little bit. And I like to secure it, my fingers underneath. And then you're going to take this working yarn and just kind of secure the yarn here. And I kind of like to go into the pom-pom a few times. Okay. I'm going to take this off the needle. Okay, these are the tails of my pom-pom. I'm going to tie them together inside. I'm also going to tie it to my yarn here. Make a good knot. This is the inside of your hat, so you don't want knots to make it uncomfortable, but it's not going to matter too much. I'm going to snip the yarn off that we bound off the hat with. And I'm going to weave these in a little bit and make it good and secure. So thread that in and just kind of go in and out. I like to catch the pom-pom because I don't want to lose that pom-pom. And just kind of thread it in a little bit. I mean, nothing fancy. It's nice and secure. I'm going to cut that one off. And then this one here. Cut that fuzz off. Ooh. Sometimes it wants to cooperate, sometimes it doesn't. It's fuzzy here. I'm not going to worry too much if I can't get it. Okay, let's see if I can get that in here. There we go. Okay. So I'm just going to kind of go in. I think that's good. I'm just going to trim that off. And turn your hat out. I might trim up my pom-pom a little bit. But get those out of the way. And there you have it. A basic, simple, first loom knit project is this simple little beanie here. I think it's cute. It's nice and warm. If you make this beanie, I'd love to see your pictures. If you want to send them to me in an email or post them in the comments, I'd love to see them. And if you like this video, I hope you will give it a thumbs up. If you find value in it, please share it with your friends and let me know how you like it. If you're not subscribed, don't forget to subscribe. And I hope God blesses you in an abundant way. And I hope you have a wonderful evening and a wonderful day. Until the next one, bye-bye.